Despite of 40k not having canon, that has obviously been establishing for a while now, but from this moment, just for this moment, let's go back to the 3rd and the 5th edition of the Imperial Guard Codex.
Hell, it's about time.
And what's better than to have the lore and the artworks in those codexes?
Yummers.
Now, I'm going to mainly focus on the codexes than the novels or anything that was made after that, because we are going to the root foundation, which was the codexes, and not anything after that. So no Space Marine after the 5th edition, and no any other models after the 5th edition. We are mainly hitting the bedrock foundation of the setting that was the Imperial Guard and what they show in those codexes. And if you really consider, like, the codex to a certain extent is the ground base of the foundation of a faction, which most people tend to miss the point, so they rather just read a novel and then from that novel they just apply it to all over the 40k, which that is not true. So instead of them focusing on the main root of the tree, they focus on the fruit that is on the tree. The topic is about the Imperial Guard and how it had and should have till today that should have 0 women. Until they changed that completely, the foundation in the 9th edition.
Fuck.
But I mean, before we get started, the annoying part.
You can't escape me!
Ko-Fi, Patreon, YouTube memberships. YouTube memberships and Patreon offer a subscription-based, meanwhile Ko-Fi supports donations and subscriptions. All the platforms will be 5 USD, and if you just don't donate, that's fine. I'm just gonna label you XYZ since you're against a minority here, so Jarvis, break his legs.
I'll give you a fucking bone, you prick! Where's my fucking money?
Thank you so much for watching, even though you skipped it, and let's get back to the video. Let's start with the artwork in 3rd edition. Bang! Grimdark, serious, and 0 women. It looks gritty, it looks fucked, the man has been through wars, and you can tell. What, you still not convinced? Alright, here's another section that didn't fit for my screen, and here's part 2. Bang! And more images from a 3rd edition Imperial Guard Codex. 0 women. And if you want to, like, try to talk about, like, the short stories that it showed, well, they're right here, but they don't mention any women. And what I mean specifically is women being in frontline combat. What, you're coping and not able to accept what these codexes show? Alright, let's go to the 5th edition codex. Again, bang, grimdark, serious, and 0 women. And then, honestly, some of the images that are being reused from 3rd edition. But still, there's some new ones. And still, it's the same consistent thing. What, still not convinced again? Fuck me, alright. Here's another section that didn't fit on my screen. Here's part 2. Boom. The point here is to show that people who say women can be in the Imperial Guard or always existed in the Imperial Guard in the first place, or what's the big deal, is false.
Yeah, that's right, cope!
So from the foundations of 3rd and 5th edition, from the codexes itself, there were 0 women. And that wasn't the case until they changed that in 9th edition with their book cover.
Oh!
Now, another argument that people tend to make how women should be allowed in the Guard, or it's just acceptable to be in the Guard anyways, is because the Imperium doesn't care for its citizens. It's all pointless, so might as well just throw as many men as much as possible, or there's so many people to the point that it doesn't really matter, so might as well throw everyone in the front lines. All into the meat grinder, just hold the line as much as possible.
Nothing matters because we're all gonna die someday!
Hey!
No, please don't kill me, please, no, I don't wanna die, please don't kill me, please don't.
Now, hearing that sounds eerily similar of how people think that 40k as a setting is nihilistic and amoral. And I won't be surprised they thought of that from the wiki or the dictionary when they looked for it. And I've already made a video and I've already debunked it, so I'll explain it here as well and just go a little bit more in depth. So, when it comes to nihilism or amoral that people are trying to think, it's more of a philosophical thinking of the human perspective that nothing matters and the value of the human is meaningless. I don't matter, you don't matter, this tree doesn't matter, nothing matters, right? Now, the only thing I can think of on the top of my head is the best example is the Sons of Malice. They are just purely destruction. Nothing matters, nothing around them matters, and they will destroy anything. They're pure anarchy. And obviously they follow the 5th Chaos God, as they call it, which is called Malice, which is henceforth the Sons of Malice, or Malal, which was their previous name. Ooh! ooh. But regardless, the point is, it's to show that is just their perspective. It's more of a perspective of the character or of the story than the setting. So to think that 40k Imperium is nihilistic or 40k as a setting as nihilistic is false. Why? Well, you just jump into questions. Well, why does the Imperium need an Imperial Guard? What is so important about the Imperial Guard? What are the roles of the male and female and the vital roles that play into the 40k? Like, is it a threat from their home planet that is coming to them, or is it somewhere far away? So, by just questioning these, it's already debunking the thinking of the Imperium as nihilistic. Like, each faction has its goals and reasons for it, and if their perspective was meaningless, and if they're thinking like nihilistic and it's just throw men for the sake of it, then what's the point of 40k as a whole, then? So nothing matters. But it would make more sense if the character sees that perspective, yes. But 40k is a setting? No. So back to the point. So men and women have equal value, but not in duties. Obviously, men can't give birth, women can. And they have their own roles to play. And sending women to the front lines is quite silly if we're trying to look things a little bit more logical. And like, why would you send them when you could just send the best of the best, aka men who are naturally stronger than women, plus enhancements that will be even stronger than women, even if women are more enhanced than men? It doesn't matter. Because naturally, in the end, men are naturally stronger. And women can play the supporter role, the helper role, so they could just play more of the follower and the helper in the home front. Meanwhile, the men can just go in the front lines and just fight the enemies. So, you know, women can give more babies, making things for the front line and then more. And men just go up and die in the front lines. That makes more sense to me than people trying to make this dumb argument just to have an excuse to have women in the front lines. So from that, they can play respectively of their duties as assigned to, and not what people try to argue with. Then what about the Sisters of Silence and the Sisters of Battle, or this or that? What about them?
We do not care.
I'm sorry, are we talking about like the Imperial Guard only, or are we going to extend to whataboutisms that have no relation to this topic? We can talk about those guys another time, but this is about God's men, not ma'am.
Well, we have women in real life, they're in the military, so it's fine in 40k as well.
Okay, so the women have lower standards than men to be accepted in the military, even though it's not even equal.
There's a reason why 26 of the most physically fit women in the Marine Corps have failed out of this course. That reason is simple. When you put 120 pounds on the back of a woman, she crumbles like a fucking crouton.
And they just go in with no problems, and there is a term that I don't like, and it's called a barracks bunny, and brother, If we want the best of the best, naturally it will be men. Why? As I said before, naturally stronger, faster, more durable, as we are built for. Women are not built for the front lines. But people just cannot accept the natural order of things of how important men and women's roles play. And they're not the same, they're completely different off the charts of what the roles are assigned to. And then afterwards, it's just gonna go down the list. Well, they can't do this and this and this and this and blah, blah, blah. But the main thing to just squash everything together is, respectively, men and women are equal in value, but not in duties. So, the conclusion of this is, people are trying to make the point that the Imperium doesn't care for its people, which is false. They care for them to a certain extent, but it's not in a nihilistic thinking. Every person has a role to play, even if it means they will be in the most harshest conditions that will be times up to 10 than before. Oh yeah, and sure, like some high lords or the highest monarchy like positions they in, like they might not care for their civilians or they don't think about them, but that's not because they're nihilistic. That's because they just don't care, and they just have their enjoyment of what they're having with. And also the argument of women are always in the guard is also false, showing from 3rd and 5th edition codex until, if we argue like from 9th edition, then completely different story. But to say that women always existed in the guard is false, because once they added in 9th edition, which is after 8th edition, wow, exciting, which clearly shows that after 8th edition, lots of things have changed. And also another reason to show that people don't read these old codexes. They don't see what the point of these codexes were. So to say that women were always in the Imperial Guard, false. And no, even the women in the military, even like in real life today, it does not mean they are good, or they're the best of the best. They could be the best of the best for their sex, but if you really wanted the strongest, best soldier, naturally men. Like, women joining in the army with lower standards to join in than men is not even equal.
Then again, it's not about equality, it's about diversity of retardation.
So yeah, that is all to summarize that women wouldn't be in the Imperial Guard in the first place. And the only thing that would be acceptable for women to fight in the front lines is when their home planet is threatened and they're like the last line of defense and they're about to get devoured by Tyranids or something. That's the only thing I can see that would make sense. To go and conscript into the army as a woman, it doesn't make sense. And it's just a bit silly at this point. That is all for this video. So, if you want to check out all my platforms that I've showed before, Ko-Fi, Patreon, and YouTube memberships, they're all there, and you'll feel free to support when you feel like it. And if you want to keep yourself up to date, I have a Discord and YouTube's community page to check you over there. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, my brothers, and take care.
Rise up in the morning sun.